It was about a decade ago when Rhodesia McMillian and I were doctoral students at the University of Missouri, and we had this conversation about her grandfather's philosophy on education. Now, for context, Dr. McMillian is an American descendant of slavery. And in that conversation, she mentioned that her grandfather had commented that Black students might have been better off had integration of the schools not occurred. And that was such an important moment for me in understanding the struggles that had occurred and that were still occurring for Black students in our educational system. Now, her grandfather was Matthew McMillian, who was born in Washington, D.C. back in 1925. And at age 10, he was encouraged by his father to play saxophone and took music really seriously. Then he began gigging as a teenager. And then after high school, he joined the U.S. Army and he played in the Army Band. And then after his service, he settled in Savannah, Georgia, and he toured the country with Nat King Cole, the Mills Brothers, and several other well-known jazz artists. And he was a staple in the Savannah jazz community for many years. Now, his day job was with the U.S. Postal Service, and he was a staunch advocate for education. He passed away in 2002 at the age of 76, but his legacy really lives on in his granddaughter, Dr. Rhodesia McMillian, who's an assistant professor of education at The Ohio State University. When I asked her if I could share this story, she asked that I center it, her grandfather, in these remarks. And then she shared with me an article that scholars from the University of North Dakota have been working on that really summarizes his philosophy about education. These scholars assert that Brown versus the Board of Education, the 1954 Supreme Court decision that desegregated schools, stands in the collective national memory as the turning point for America's fight for racial justice. But as we're observing its 70th anniversary this year, they assert that the Brown decision also represents something much more somber, that it ultimately led to thousands of Black teachers losing their jobs. Now, before Brown, Black children often were excluded from public schools, or they were forced into underfunded or unsafe schools. So rather than accept these conditions, many of the Black communities pooled their limited resources to build private schools of their own. They would buy the curricular materials and they would hire Black teachers. So conditions were vastly unequal to those of the white children at the time, but the presence of Black teachers provided Black children with a deep sense of value and of care and of concern. So prior to 1954, there were approximately 82,000 Black teachers in the United States. A decade later, in 1964, with hundreds of segregated schools closing, more than 38,000 Black teachers had been fired by white school leaders. As the community-run schools for Black children started to disappear following the end of legalized segregation, so too did Black educators keep staff there. And Brown had mandated integration for students, but the decision didn't say anything about educators. So in the decades since, parents and folks who are concerned about justice, equity, and researchers, they've documented how important teachers of color are, and they pleaded for teacher workforce diversity within our public schools. And they argue that Black teachers support student learning and social and emotional development of children of color in ways that really can lead to better outcomes for them. In another conversation that I had with Dr. McMillian, she shared the story of her mother when she was an elementary school kid. Her mother calling the school principal after her mom figured out that Rhodesia's teacher was telling her just to skip over words she didn't know. Her mother proclaimed, "Kizzy can read," as she was dialing the telephone. Good. And that comment, when Rose shared that with me, this was like emblazoned in my soul. If you attended the episode last fall called Ignore the Shadow, you can recall that I shared what a profound impact the character Kizzy from Alex Haley's miniseries Roots had on me. Kizzy was taught to read by the daughter of her enslaver, and then ultimately suffered greatly because she was able to read. And according to Rowe, the sentiment Kizzy can read is that African American children's intellectual capacity goes beyond any narrow prejudice, and that our children should be afforded every opportunity to learn all academic skill. So both of these stories from my dear friend Rowe had sort of enlightened to me about the injustices that are in our educational system for Black students, both in the past and in the present. And that's why when Toni Blackwood suggested a Voice in an Arrow Rock episode about John Trigg, I jumped right into researching him. Toni met members of the Trigg family because she currently resides in the Trigg family home here in Arrow Rock. And she learned that Mr. Trigg was known as the professor because as the second Black educator in Arrow Rock, he had extremely high expectations of his students, and he was a very strict disciplinarian. And Toni learned this from his grandson, Kevin Trigg, who's right over there. And Kevin's here with, 60 some odd the same item. Of the professor. And we're delighted to welcome you all home to Arrow Rock this weekend for your family reunion. The Trigg family has traveled from Missouri, Kansas, Georgia, California, Michigan, Oregon, Texas, Illinois, and Norway. Gary Bradley-Lopez was highly recommended to me by the theater faculty at the University of Missouri Kansas City to write this episode of Voices of Arrow Rock. Gary is an amazing human being who's also an amazing playwright. He's produced and he's a Grant Award-winning playwright based in Kansas City, Kansas. And his work in historical fiction is both meaningful and it's enlightening. Gary's also an educator. So thank you, Gary, for giving so much of your heart and your soul to this project. Yeah. Today's performance is dedicated to the Reverend Dr. Patrick Overton, who passed away last week, who was the longtime pastor at the El Federated Church here. And he was my ministry mentor as I moved into the ministry. And he was the first one to recognize this work of Voices of Arrow Rock as a ministry. And Gary, I think your work here today with the professor, and that's just hyping what Patrick shared with me years back when we started talking about this. So would you come and share with us some of your thoughts before we actually see the play?
So I am in a church, so I do want to give honor to God. We all know God is good.
It's good.
And all the time.
It's totally good.
I told you to go work, Cameron.
That's fun.
So my name is Gary Enrique Bradley-Lopez. I am from Kansas City, Kansas, born and raised. That's home. Do we have any Kansas people in here? Any Kansas people? All right, now, okay, let's go. Let's go. I see somebody struggling. What you struggling about? You Kansas, come on. I am a director, I'm a playwright, but most important, I am a father, I'm a husband, and I am a teacher.
All right.
This is actually my first year teaching ever. Last year, I had the privilege of being a school counselor for a program called BAM, which stands for Becoming a Man, where I had the privilege of mentoring over 60 to 80, it was supposed to be 60, but too many kids wanted to be in the program, of black and brown boys at Eisenhower Middle School. Yeah. And last year, we had a black principal who was just that guy. I appreciated him. I really wanted to be under his leadership, but we had a lot of white teachers that just weren't vibing with his leadership style. And so essentially we had around 22 out of our 35 teachers leave.
Wow.
So I work at a school that's highly impoverished. I work at a school where we have a high group of ELL, English learning students. We have students who have a lot of problems, whether it's academically, whether it's personally, it's at home, it's in their communities, it's in their families. And so for me, I did not want to just be there serving just my black and brown boys, but essentially I wanted to stay there and serve all the children. And that's the reason why I became their theater teacher this year. And so I'll tell you that in my first year of teaching, I thought I was going to come in there, meet a cool teacher, you know what I'm saying, dap on my students. And let me tell you something, 20 minutes into class with 56 students in my class, John Thomas Trigg came right out of me. I'll tell you, I had that class so quiet. I had them under control. I had kids wanting to leave my classroom. And that's fine by me. And so I'll tell you all that education is a very big thing for me. For you all that don't know what an IEP is, that's an individualized education plan.
Yeah.
I had one of those. I was a kid with an IEP. I was the kid that could not sit down. I was the kid that was talking out the side of his neck. I was the kid that just essentially wanted the attention in class. And it wasn't until I got to middle school that I finally met my first black male teacher. And that's very long for a black man to meet a black teacher. You know, we all have our parents who are our first teachers, right? And I grew up with a black father who was just as tough on me as I could imagine John Thomas Trigg being on his own children. And I don't want to be that tough on my kids, but I do want to be tough on my kids. And so when I heard about this play, it was very, very important that I looked into his legacy and learned what really, really happened. And so I want to give a shout out to Kevin, who met with me. I was able to learn so much in just that little bit of time. I've been writing plays since I was in high school. I fell in love with Tyler Perry and wanted to be the next Tyler Perry and August Wilson. And so what I didn't know was that eventually I'd end up in this historical context of playwriting. One of the first plays that I had published as an adult was called Black Parent Union. It was a play about a black father who organized all these other black parents in the community, in a predominantly white community, to organize all the black parents in order to assist their black children at a predominantly white school. My next play was called If Only Graduating from Western University, which is about the first black college west of the Mississippi, Western University, Kansas City, Kansas. My next play, which just happened last week and we just produced, was The Father's Poder. It's about a Mexican father who advocated for his children to be integrated into Argentine Middle School, which is an all-white school. I look at all three of those plays and they all have one thing in common, and it's education. The one thing that I kept trying to push away from myself, the one thing that I did not want to do in life, ended up being the main thing that is pushing me forward in my playwriting career, in my educational career, and also in my career. It's education. And I think because of that, it's because of how important education is. I remember being a little boy with the IEP, and now I remember how much of an impact education can really do for someone. Here I am standing in front of you as a doctoral candidate, and I couldn't even read when I was in the 3rd grade. And it was all because of education. So it is clear that Professor Trigg's legacy is very important because 1, you all are around the world. 2, y'all are some educated people. But 3, he created such a historical story and legacy here in Arrow Rock and beyond that when I heard about this play, I had to take it on. I had to take it on. when I had just finished up a project and I got paid $250 for this play. And then as time went on, I was like, man, I can't wait till God blesses me and I could just start writing plays and actually get paid for it. God came that night. Yeah, God came that night so quickly. My playwriting professor messaged me at 11:51 that night. I'm like, dude, that's weird. I answered the call though. I answered that call. He let me know about this project. I emailed Dr. Kateman. I've never called you that. I emailed Dr. Mike. I emailed him my play, my resume, and he got back with me so quick. Then it was a snowstorm in Kansas City. I'm driving in a car with no with no heat, in the snow, all the way from Kansas City, Kansas, to go meet this brother or this man in Kansas City, Missouri. But that's how invested I was in this project. I realized how important this man's legacy was. I realized how important education was to me. And I felt like I owed it to our community in order to ensure that I could learn more about this brother, but also share his legacy because it's so authentic, so true, and so real. And so I thank you for allowing me to be part of this. I thank the family for allowing me and trusting me to take such a story and give you all something that you all can take on forever. And hopefully it's not the last time that you see him. So I'll say this, I am a Black male teacher. This is my first year teaching. There's only 7% of Black teachers in the United States.
Wow.
Only 2% of Black teachers, only 2% in the United States are Black male teachers. So I'm part of the 2% that's in our schools trying to educate our children. Now, that's a lot compared to how much there probably was when Professor Trigg was around.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe, because there probably was only just Black male teachers back in the day. I don't know, we'll have to look that up. Nobody fact check me later. But I'll end off by saying this. Have you all ever heard of a thing called the black tax in education? Anyone? I got a couple people. So there's a thing called the black tax that happens to Black teachers in education. And it happens for a couple reasons. The main reason is we're raised by Black people. So when we're raised by Black people, if you discipline me, I'm most likely to listen to a Black person more than I am to listen to a white person. If a white teacher yells at me and tells me to sit down, I'm gonna look at her like, I wish you tell me to sit down again. The audacity for you to tell me that I start making it into a slave thing. You know what your answer did to me every years old? You telling me to sit down now? Okay. But when you have a Black teacher that's there, invested in you, looks like your parent, acts like your parent, sounds like your parent, then it makes it more and more important that Black and brown teachers are in the school. It's only been the second week of school, and I've already been asked to sub multiple times.
Wow.
Only because I can manage a classroom full of 50-something kids, and they're able to respect me and listen to me. One, because I look like that. Second, I live in the very community that they go to school in. They see me at Price Shop or at Hen House on weekends. And so it's so important that we start bringing more and more Black and brown teachers into our schools because it truly makes an impact. So I want you all to enjoy the show, take it all in. It's your history. It is your history. I hope that I was able to give you all the right honor. But without further ado, please enjoy the cast of The Professor. Thank you.
I just turned 14. A few days ago, actually, July 7th. My mom made me a batch of molasses cookies to share with my family. I even shared some of my mules. The woman mule is called a Mama mule, and the man mule is called a John mule. I got me 2 John mules. However, my pa says it doesn't make any difference if a mule is a boy or a girl, because mules can have no babies anyway. Well, I heard, but folks don't know this. But every now and then, a mule will mess with a horse or an ass and get it knocked up. But a mule and a mule don't make any babies, so as long as it works, it's a good mule. Because mules may be stubborn, and they is tough, they smart, and they know when danger is around. And they got good work integrity. See, I call one Asa, and the other Hezekiah. My pa say, as long as they working, none of that matters. But I get the names from the good book. The name of 2 good kings in the Bible. My 2 mules. I'm smart, huh? Yeah, that's because education and work ethic are two things my pa don't play about. That's what I'm sure most folks would expect of my father, being that he is the professor. My father was elected to be the teacher at Brown's Chapel School for the black students by the Arrow Rock Board of Education. We've been in that room all types of ages, learning from my pa.
James, go ahead and take your seat. I'm about to get started.
Yes, sir.
Young ladies and gentlemen, let's settle down right now. Everyone in their seats in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.5. 1. Thank you. Now, can anyone tell me the subjects that we learned yesterday? Not you, James. You? What, you?
Chemistry.
You were sitting in that same seat yesterday. I know you. Tell me what happened yesterday.
Arithmetic. Man.
Well, seeing as all my family's sitting here, only one can answer the question. We're gonna have us some homework and ensure that this problem won't happen again. Now, we did learn arithmetic. Everyone learned arithmetic and how important it is in everyday life like problems, measures, money, time. Okay, excuse me. I need everybody's butts in seats now. Thank you. Now, we also did some reading and vocabulary. Today, the lower grades will go with my older daughter, May, and learn mannerisms. We will be a respectable people. Like not talking when I'm speaking, gentlemen. Thank you. Higher grades, we will learn agricultural practices and knowledge. But what, y'all just thought this was reading and writing? No. You need to know more to survive in this world. You will leave this school one day as a well-rounded individual. Now, I know you learned about it at home, but you need to learn more because there is more than one way for a black man to earn money. So, all right, younger ages, stay here with May. Higher ages, come out and sit by the oak tree with me.
Now, as you can see, my pa was just as tough on his students as he wanted his children. I mean, even in class, he treated us no differently. Now, my mama, she was a strong, caring, God-fearing woman. For the tough that my dad was, my mama was love.
James, baby, come try this chest pie I just made.
Oh, I love chest pie.
I know it, baby.
Oh, mama, this is so good. I wish I could eat it all.
I know it, but let's not get greedy. Gotta save some for the rest of the household. But that's why I let you get the first bite.
Thank you, mama. Hey, mama, I have a question.
What's that?
Do you think Papa likes us?
Why you say that?
Well, he be so tough and mean. He always talking about studying and working and cleaning.
That's your father. With everyone, you hear me? Now you know in 1895 your pa sued the school board.
He did?
Yes, to get what we needed for the children of Brown Chapel, because he wasn't anyone to play around with. He did that knowing damn well them Caucasian folks could have done to him. Thank God they didn't do nothing. It got dismissed, but he tried.
Mama, that's good and all, but his kids, his real kids.
Now, James, I know your father ain't no mess around. He come from hard time. Hell, we all do, especially when fun wasn't an option. He tough on y'all because he wants y'all to go far, so can't no man hold anything to you. You know how I know he loves y'all?
How?
Because you get fed every day. You have a place to sleep and clothes on your back. Now you better quit sitting around, because you know he gonna come in here asking why you ain't take the mules down to the big spring. When I come back from laundry, you better get gone. You hear me?
Yes, ma'am. There were 13 of us Trigg kids. John and Carl, who got a different mama though. Orban, Mary, Myrtle, Clara May, William, George, Helen, Edward, and Marvin. So as you can imagine, with a household like that, School of my part didn't take anything when it came to getting our education. And we all his kids, had to get our school and our work. Now we all had jobs. My job was the mules. But Hezekiah and Asa don't give me any trouble. Well, usually they don't. But since they acted up a few days ago, my pa won't talk to me.
Mary! Mary! Now, Mary!
John,
Have you seen my son? Well, have you? And Mary, answer me, where's my satchel?
John, do you understand what you are asking me right now?
It's a man asking his wife where his satchel is all.
Out of all the questions you can ask me, could have asked, you gonna ask me where your satchel is?
Mary, I'm not looking for bad business. I'm looking for my satchel. Simple as that.
Bad bit? For what? John, what do you need the satchel for?
I need it. I'm going up to the schoolhouse.
And you don't find anything wrong with that?
Mary, this ain't the time.
John Thomas Trigg. James is lying in there with little to no life. In the other room. Dying. And would be dead by now if it wasn't for me and God. And you telling me you headed to the schoolhouse?
The boy is not dead.
No, I ain't dead. No, because my mama been watching me for the past few days since the accident. With her in prayer, I'm making it. She been by my side all day and all night, barely taking time for herself. Always saying to me,
James, baby, you're gonna make it. I know you are. Just, you keep being strong like we taught you, baby. Just trust God, James. He will know what to do.
Then my mom will get on her knees next to my bed, hold my hands and close her eyes and say,
My Lord, I come before you with a heavy heart, filled with sorrow and pain. My precious child, my joy and my blessing is lying here so close to leaving this world. Lord, I trust in your wisdom and your plan, even when it is hard to understand. You are the great healer, the comforter in times of trouble. If it be your will, would you reach out and lay your hand on my baby and heal my baby? But if it is time for him to come home to you, please take him gently. With your angels surrounding him in love and light. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
And one thing about my mama is, her word is strong. Trust God. That's always been the type of person my mom was. She was caring, she was loving, an optimistic mother, a mother any child would want. If my mama said I'm gonna be all right, that's that. My mom not no liar, no, not my mama. Sweet like honey and strong, even stronger than your mules. Now, one thing is, the mules got the best of me. That's why my pa ain't talking to me no more. Well, at least I think. This how I remember.
James, what are you still doing here?
Oh,
Just see that. You know that every day you are supposed to take them mules to the big spring. But lately, you've been waiting around till the heat of day. And then waiting till later because it's too hot. And you should have had it done.
I was getting ready to do it.
It should have been done. Been in here piddling around. And all you got is a simple responsibility. Take the mules to the spring.
Asa Hezekiah.
Boy, what?
Them the name of my mules.
Son, I'm standing here talking to you about care and responsibilities, and you talking to me about the names you done gave the mules.
Yes, sir.
And you don't see a problem with that.
No,
James, take the mules to the spring now, damn it!
I know he ain't dead yet. I've been in there caring for him day and night, and that's why I have an issue with you going to the schoolhouse. For what?
My responsibility. Don't stop when I got a school full of children waiting to learn.
John, listen to yourself. The children can miss a day. Parents ain't sending their kids to the schoolhouse. The town knows. You the only one acting like your son ain't hurt. The boy is just making it a little breath at a time. James, he needs you right now. We all need you right now, John. I got 2 babies already at Union Hill Cemetery that I had to deal with alone. I'd be damned if I go through another alone.
I just don't understand how this could happen. He knows how to work them mules. This wasn't his first time married. I know James. I know he's capable of handling them mules. He loved the mules. Well, he loved the mules so much he gave them names. Asa, then Hezekiah. It shows the boy was listening in class. And he was reading. I was hard on him. I was so hard on him. Remember, you know the last conversation we had, I was getting on him for not taking the mules to the spring. And now look, them damn mules, they...
No, listen, don't you do that. This ain't your fault, you hear me? This ain't your fault. You can't control what happened down there at the big spring.
He wasn't doing anything but being a boy. Playing around. And I told him to take them mules to the spring. Now, look.
It ain't nothing about that, John. We gotta have faith that James is gonna push through, because he will.
Oh, God! Ah! Lord, how could this happen? Lord, give me an answer. How? He knew what to do. He's done it many times, and he knows how to take care of responsibility. Lord, how could you? How?
John, don't question God.
I'm not questioning. I just want to know how. So can you please answer me that, God? Hey, can you hear me? Send me a message. James, what happened? James. My boy. My beautiful boy. What happened?
I promise, Pa, I wasn't playing around.
Son, it's okay. I just need to know what happened.
Same as any time. Same as any time. I was just driving on Asa. I mean,
Asa and Hezekiah.
listen.
I did. But son, tell me.
Yeah. I traveled down First Street past Godsey's Diggings, down the hill to the spring. Then we went up. Same as any day I got them to the spring and let them drink that water. I sat with a long stick by the water and was swinging it around. I was humming too. There wasn't anyone there but me and my mules. Right as I got up to get ready to go get them, a loud noise spooked them, and both Asa and Hezekiah just kicked and ran off. I got my foot stuck on the reins. They didn't know I was still there. They just kept going. Grass, dirt, and gravel scraped me in my face and my body as I was dragged down. I remember smelling the dusty dirt as I yelled my screams of pain. Gravel and dirt just ended in my mouth. I tried spitting up. I couldn't focus as I could feel my skin being scraped off of me as my clothes were falling off of me. Eventually, the pain stopped because I realized I was beginning to lose consciousness. Pa, I promise. I wasn't playing. I promise, same as always.
I wish you were, please, son. I wish I had let you play more. Now, I need you to pull through this, James. I need you right now. In Jesus' name, James. I need you to pull through this. James, I need you to pull through this right now.
John. John.
I need James to pull through this. I'm so sorry, Mary.
He's gone. James is making his way to the Lord now.
Lord. My James. My James.
I joined my sister and my brother Mark, both babies on Union Hill Cemetery. They needed someone to watch after them up there. My pa taught me enough to teach them something, and my ma showed me what real love is. So let them get some of that too. Who knows what spooked the mules? Who knows why God chose me to attorney? Who knows what could have been? What I do know is that my pa, his tough love was most remembered about him. From his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, and future generations to come. He educated a whole community of Negro children in Arrow Rock with that same tough love, something that is hard to find in education nowadays, especially at a time when education is being threatened. And like my pa said, they don't want you to have an education. And that is why it is so important. When our people get an education, it takes them beyond measure. We soar and prosper, as my pa would say. My pa stood up to the Board of Education because he knew there were so many injustices in simply ensuring that Black children could get educated. And it's sad to say it seems like the fight is still going to this day. So my father's legacy is important more now than ever. And while my pa was still tough, I knew that this accident hit him hard. And I never meant for any of this to happen. But I did leave this earth knowing I had two parents who cared so much for me and their children. Mary Alice and John Thomas Trigg, and that is the one biggest blessing that every child deserves. Mine is from my mom and the professor.
Thanks everybody for being here. We have an opportunity to visit with the cast and the playwright. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to take those. Yeah. Okay.
I just have a comment. That was so well done.
Thank you.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I remember my Aunt Helen, who was his sister, one of the children, and she would talk about it. She said, "We lost James when he was little." She said, "Just grow up." It was so simple. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Mary and I have been talking over the last 6 or 7 months about James and what he might have been or how he could have affected the world. I really appreciate how he brought James to life for us to get an idea. Yes. Yes. Well, we don't know what startled individuals. In all of the information and research, there's nothing that says anything about that. Just that they drug him around the big spring, and he lived a few days after the accident. One of the things that I've been starting to work on with my students at Missouri Valley, but also I've done a workshop for the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, and also for the National Council on History and Education. And I pulled something out of my dissertation called the Moral Map and the Growth Continuum. And what this tool allows us to do is be self-reflective when we consider issues of race. So today's theme was education. And so for me, my moment was having my conversation with Gresham 10 years ago and never having thought about inequities in education, because I didn't need to. So when I look at the moral map, there are 4 quadrants when I process issues related to race. Am I seeking gain as I process this? Because maybe it makes me look good to be talking or thinking about this. Or am I ignoring or just withdrawing from this? And I think in the case of education inequities, that's just kind of ignoring it. But also, am I taking this issue of race and am I trivializing it? Am I saying, oh, that's no big deal? Or am I romanticizing it? But the goal is to kind of decide how you process the issue of race, to lead yourself to a more empathetic understanding of it. So once you plot yourself on the moral map and kind of think about how you've been thinking about it, then you take the growth continuum and you start on one end of the continuum and ask yourself, do I support and acknowledge that racial injustice exists? And then in the middle of the continuum, am I supporting that we ought to eliminate those injustices? And then on the other end of the continuum, have I grown to understand why we should eliminate those? So I encourage you, as we do in our workshops, to think about an issue related to race, how you process it, where you might plot yourself on the moral map, and where you are on the growth continuum. The arrows go both ways on the continuum, because I think in some issues, we might be all the way over to the empathetic understanding. With other issues, we might even be struggling to acknowledge that they exist. So it's a fluid process back and forth. So thanks for indulging me on this. We're going to be doing a workshop, another workshop for the Christian Church here in Carroll Rock on November 16th for pastors around the state who need to do their continuing education in this area. And I am also working with the National Council on History Education about this and bringing this to middle school and high school classrooms and making some discussion guides available. So the students and I are going to be working on that with education faculty about this. Jennifer, you had a question.
Yeah, when did the little brick school open? It was called what school?
I don't have the answer to that. Sandy, do you know from your research?
I don't have my book here.
Okay, gotcha. And I don't know, Pat, you're here. Do you know when?
I should know.
Yeah. That's a great question. We need to do some further research on
Yeah,
that.
I think near the turn of the century. Yeah.
So what I'm still learning is classes took place at Brown's Chapel, and then at some point they moved to the brick building. There weren't two schools at one time, correct?
They took the materials from the schoolhouse that they tore down to rebuild, not the one that's there now, but the one before it. And then they built the little brick schoolhouse with that, so.
Great question. We'll have to dive into that research.
And see, 1938, yeah. And I think that was actually. Yeah.
So, just trying to pull the history that I know together. Was the Arrow Rock School over here?
The little lock
That one? No, the one across the street. Yeah, the big one. Was it ever integrated?
After 1954, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think before,
Yeah.
So then the brick school would have closed,
probably.
and the black teacher would have been
Fire.
fired.
I felt that black students went to Sedan.
They did.
I remember high school,
And they swam.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
About a year and a half ago, I think it was, I saw a poster on Facebook. And my sister and I and our dear friend, I called and I said, hey, you guys want to drive down to Arrow Rock? I think there's a thing going on down there in Kansas City.
Because you live in Kansas City area.
I live in Lyceum, which is south of Kansas City. And one Friday night, we drove down. I believe God ordains all things. And so I came down, and the people of the village, I call them, are so amazing. And the fact that we're in a town in Missouri that so highly recognizes the African American history in this town. And every one of us is a part of the history of this town. And so I was mingling with some people because I don't seem to know how to shut up ever. And I was talking, and I had to brag, and I said, by the way, I am part of the history of this town. My grandfather is Professor John Trigg. Out of nowhere, like a bolt of lightning, this guy comes running over to me. You're part of the Trigg family? Well, yes, I am. And he says, oh my God, I want to give voice to your grandfather. God ordained that Friday night an interaction that happened here that caused these people to have a reunion back in this town today. Thank God for causing it to happen. And then God always sends a thorn in your side called Kevin Trigg. Kevin, please stand. Because he is my co-chair. And he would fly in from Atlanta to Kansas City, and then we would drive down here to be in the grounds that your grandfather walked.
Yes.
His father in slavery, George Trigg, walked these grounds. And everybody you're going to learn about at the presentation this afternoon, as far as the family anyway, is about who walked these streets and made a path for you. So that as they were only dreaming,
Yes.
we put legs to their dreams. And we're successful today because of Professor John Thomas Trigg
Yes.
and we always heard these amazing stories about what a mean taskmaster he was, but that was his way of loving you,
Yes.
as you saw today. So I don't want to talk all day. I want to say thank you to Professor Dr. Michael Kateman and the time he spent with me and Kevin to pull this all to fruition and causing us to cause a reunion to happen around this play. And I think wherever you came from out of town, you'll never be the same
Yes.
about your grandfather
Yes.
today. Thank you.